The 7th is the worst. I know I'm doing this backwards, but this is the way that the Excel works out. The 7th is the worst episode. We both said it was potentially a top 10 worst Star Trek episode. Neither of us can remember. I listened to the podcast. We didn't like, we thought the character motivations were all wrong. We thought that the flashbacks were terrible. We thought that it was another example of what Enterprise used to do a lot more than it currently does, which is that they make things a mystery because a character does not tell anyone what they know about what's going on, which is a huge part of that story. It has that weird scene where they chase Bruce Davison and he hides under the table and then peers out at them and then runs away. Mayweather goes down with them for no reason and has no lines. He's just in the background of a couple of scenes with Trip and Archer, or Archer and T'Pol. And then it has that goofy, they set the floor on fire with acid or something, so she straps the seatbelts to her feet and runs across the parking lot to the shuttlecraft.
I'm sorry. Did I have a stroke just now? What? What?
The 7th is one of my top 10 worst episodes of Star Trek, and therefore it wins this competition about the worst
Could you
episode.
just reiterate what you just said? I do not remember that at all. She straps
she has to
seatbelts
run
to her
across
feet.
She has to run across the parking lot to get to the shuttle, and they have poured acid or something out there. So she straps some like fabric seatbelts to her feet and runs across the ice to get over to it. It's absurd.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds vaguely familiar. I mean, I think your description is more interesting what they actually did, but
And Norlimo says the ship was on acid or something, so they needed to protect their feet, and they lost their shoes.
if the ship was on acid, it would be a much more interesting show.
Yeah, that's what Enterprise is actually missing. So that's the worst. I'll keep moving down here. Keep this moving. Marauders, this is the second worst. We always reference Marauders as a terrible episode in all the other podcasts. I remember it because it's so derivative and terrible and boring.
That's what sticks out to me about this one, and I honestly think if Marauders is not rated lower than the 7th, it has to be that the 7th was just like a terrible episode, like just all points.
Yep.
Because the thing with Enterprise that makes it so difficult is most of the shows are put together fairly well. There's not a lot of drop-off or quality issues as far as performances or the way the show looks or shot or even how the stories work. I mean,
scripts are usually functional, just boring. Yeah.
Yeah, they're usually missing that extra oomph. The 7th, I have to assume, based on that, was just a failure on all levels. But Marauders, it was definitely just Enterprise on lazy autopilot.
Yeah. I have the 7th that low. Just we hated it on the podcast and we don't remember it. I just can't imagine a worse combination of a Star Trek episode where it's unmemorable and bad at the same time. Yeah, Marauders is pretty terrible too. Night in Sickbay.
I don't remember what season this is, so I'll wait until we finish this before I bring it up. But A Night in Sickbay. That is, they're running around.
It's Midsummer Night's Dream, as Jason has mentioned in the thing. It's that version of the Enterprise episode where they're running around. The dog is sick, and Archer's upset about the dog being sick.
Right.
It ends with that chainsaw ceremony where he's like chainsawing the tree.
Yeah. What a weird fucking show.
I don't have a problem with this episode. People always put this one as like a top worst Star Trek episode, but I thought it was just stupid and not functionally idiotic or anything like that. We'll keep moving. Communicator. Do you remember this episode? This is the one where Reed or someone leaves the communicator on the planet that is...
Oh, right.
Yeah. Vaguely militaristic again.
Yeah.
It's another... Yeah.
No, that episode was terrible.
That's another terrible one.
That was one... If I remember correctly, that was one where we were like, it's a very contrived setup where what they did to get into the situation made no sense, and how they ended up fixing it made even less sense.
Yep. And it's just beige for the rest of it. Archer and Trip or whoever being tied to chairs and made to tell them where the aliens came from or something like that. The last one, Bounty. We just watched Bounty. It's the T'Pol gets horny for Phlox, and Archer gets kidnapped and taken away for a bounty. I didn't think that one was that bad, but I think that's one of those examples of it's memorable because of the Phlox and T'Pol storyline is so strange that they chose to do that. It's not a good episode, but it is what it is. It's going to make it on number 5 of my worst.
Yeah, I think the problem with a lot of these bad ones is that they aren't explicitly terrible. Like I said, the production is usually pretty good, and the scripts are usually, like you said, functional. But they leave so much on the table that could have made it better or interesting, and they just don't go for it. And this one is just kind of it never gets past the initial idea of wouldn't it be funny if T'Pol went into heat and was stuck in a room with Phlox.
Yeah,
it's like, cool. What's the story? Well, I don't. That's it.
That's it.
Go, well, okay, enough. Cool. Why do you need more than that?
The top 5 worst, from 5 to worst, is Bounty, The Communicator, A Night in Sickbay, Marauders, and The Seventh. I think I'm fine with that.